Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're doing another episode of How To. We're actually going to be talking about vacant land. I feel like a lot of wholesalers are asleep on it, so let's see what we can figure it out. The reason why a lot of wholesalers don't want to deal with vacant land because they don't know anything about it, and there's some information out there, but I feel like it's not enough. I mostly wholesale, to be honest with you, vacant land. I do wholesale properties. I actually wholesale the condo, I wholesale the house, I wholesale the mobile home, but a lot of my deals come from vacant land. So let me tell you what knowledge I have from wholesaling vacant land. Thing number one to look out for is zoning of the vacant land. So as a wholesaler, you're mostly going to be dealing with vacant land that is either residential, general use, or commercial. The other stuff is not going to be as of interest for you. So for example, there can be agricultural, recreational, industrial, all those things you can still wholesale. Technically there's not really a limit to that. However, it's going to be very complicated to find buyers. However, don't let me stop you there. If you can figure it out, actually leave the comments down below. I would like to learn from you. Out of three types of zoning that I deal with are residential, commercial, and general. I'm gonna be talking about residential today because commercial is a very completely different animal, and I haven't dealt with it enough to actually tell you a lot about it. But I know right now with COVID-19 going on in 2020, commercial land is kind of going away. I think it's going to be changing. There's going to be some changes to it. So I would say concentrate your focus on residential land because that's where it's at. General land on the other side is okay. You can turn it into residential, but there's a lot of little bit of complications that are going to cause maybe some issues along the way. So let's talk about residential zoning, right? So you have a property that's zoned residential and it's good to go, and you're like, okay, so I can build a house there right away. Not exactly. First, you're gonna have to figure out what kind of zoning it's in. I know it's residential, but let's say some zoning that you can have a home on 5 acres, on a home on 1 acre, or less, or more. Sometimes it's 10 or more. So you have to call the city and figure it out. On general zoning, it's not as, like I say, if you can convert it into residential, but the problem with general is sometimes you can't, and you have to call the city to figure it out. I would say if you know a little bit more about the land, you can wholesale general, but I would start with residential and wouldn't even bother about general as much to start with. Number two that you have to look out for is flood zones. There are multiple types of flood zones. There's A, X, B, C, V, so all of those. So there's some of them you can build on, some of them you cannot. Let's talk about it. Flood zones A and V are the ones that are the most hazardous flood zones. However, you can still build on it. What you're gonna need is a flood zone insurance, flood insurance, and you're gonna have to probably elevate that property to be able to actually build on it. However, you know, that comes with a lot extra cost, but you can get that land for a little bit of cheaper price. Flood zone types B, X, and C, they are, you know, they're counted as flood zones, but however, you can still build on them, and they don't require flood insurance. Thing number three to look out for is impact fees. Every county has different, every state, you know, you have to learn the rules that's in your county, in your state. But for example, I'll give you an example of a county that I deal with a lot is Polk County in Central Florida. So if you have not had a property there for 5 years, if you say you never had a property at a vacant land there ever, including mobile home, any kind of structure, then you have to pay a $3,000 to $5,000 fee if you want to place a structure on that property. So like I said, you have to learn whatever it is in your county, in your state, and then you can actually include that in your deals. Let's say if there was a structure there within 3 years, you can tell your investor that, hey, you don't have to pay $5,000, so that's a better deal for you. Number four to look out for. Let's say you have a property that's 60 by 150. So it's not big of a property, that's about 9,000 square feet, but you think, okay, so maybe I can put a 60-foot house on there, or 59. You cannot. Every property has dimensions, but you also have step backs from sides of your property that you have to be careful about. Sometimes it's 7 feet, 10 feet, 15, 24. I don't know, it always changes on the property, and the city is the one who puts those limits. So the city is your best friend in this situation as well. You have to give them a shout and ask them those questions. And number 5 are utilities. I mean, you probably thought about it. You know, what if the land has water, you know, it has sewer, electricity, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty simple. Electricity, most of the time, the properties have it. You know, it's not that hard of it to get access to it. So unless you're somewhere in the middle in the country that's kind of hard to get access to electricity, it's actually the easiest utilities out of all of them. Number 2 is going to be the sewage. So you either have a city sewer or you have a septic. Most of the times when you're doing vacant land, it's probably going to be a septic. And a lot of, if you get a vacant land that has a septic in it, you're already saving the investor about $3,000, which you can include in your deal. Obviously, that all depends on the size of the septic and all the other stuff, so you have to do a little bit more research on that particular situation. And number 3 is water. So you either have city water or you have a well. A lot of properties will have well, which is okay, it's not a big deal, but you have to clarify that to an investor if you do or do not have a well on the property, because that's some cost that you would like to incorporate in your deal. But besides that, guys, there's not a whole lot different to the vacant land. Make connections with builders. That's the best suggestion I can make, because when the moment you make connections, you know what they're looking for. Do they need land for mobile homes? Do they need land for block homes? Do they need land for agriculture, commercial, residential? I don't know. So you gotta figure it out and see what your buyers need. But to actually find buyers, my best suggestion is find your first deal and then go from there. Either way, guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave any comments down below if you have any questions. If you would like to learn something about different about wholesaling, what kind of part of wholesaling would you like to learn about, let me know. I'm always taking questions. I would like to see what kind of questions you got. And peace.